Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the online class. As you can see, today I'm going to start a new chapter that is from your new Pathways book, okay? And in which we are going to start Unit 5, Section 2 chapter. That the chapter name is The Too Many Professors. It is really not conveying a meaning after reading this title, The Too Many Professors. What image came in your mind? Nothing, है ना? कोई आइडिया नहीं लग रहा है कि व्हाट द चैप्टर इज अबाउट और इफ यू हैव रेड दिस चैप्टर वेरी गुड यू विल अंडरस्टैंड द चैप्टर वेरी वेल ओके so too many professors what it is about we'll see in the by reading the chapter okay so the chapter tells that read about an imaginative professor who invented a marvelous mixture that could bring to life any picture to which it was applied. Means he created some kind of mixture, okay? He always busy, he wanted to invent new things, okay? And he invented a marvelous mixture, okay? Which was when he applied that mixture on any object, on any piece of paper or any picture, it becomes alive, okay? Let's see the chapter and we'll see what happened and what these too many professors mean. Okay. Let's read this chapter and continue. Lord, whatever can that awful smell be? Gasped Mrs. Fleeter Snoop. Okay. Now a woman who was the caretaker of that house, okay, where this professor lived, okay, and she felt some kind of awful smell which was coming out from the kitchen, okay, and the awful means very bad smell coming out of the kitchen. No, she was coming out of the kitchen and she said what this awful smell is, with a smudge of flour on her nose because she was making cakes, okay, and she as she was making cake, है ना, the flour, है ना, जो आटे था वो उसके नोज पे लगा हुआ था, गंदा हो चुका था उसका नोज, and she came out from the kitchen from in that way. Can't be the drains, they were cleaned only yesterday. Can't be something gone bad, for I turned out the ladder this very morning, है ना, because I have removed all the things. I cleaned the drain. Drain means what? That passage through which the dirty water pass away from the house, like nala we say, है ना, from that I cleaned it yesterday. I cleaned the ladder also. Ladder means the where we keep the kitchen things, okay, we can say rasoi bhandar, okay, so where we kept all the things. I cleaned all the things from where this bad smell is coming, because I cleaned everything. It's the professor, I'm sure, said Fleeter Snoop. है ना? Miss Fleeter Snoop told what? This may be the professor, because he must be inventing something really, and from that this bad smell is coming, because I already cleaned everything yesterday itself, and now this dirty smell is coming. It is surely the professor will be inventing something, and from that the smell is coming out. And it certainly was the professor. But before Mrs. Fleeter Snoop had time to get to the door of his inventory, out he burst with a little bottle in one hand, a garden syringe in the other, and his clothes stained. What he saw when he entered that inventory room, what he saw? He saw a little bottle he held it in his hand, and a garden syringe. And a garden syringe he held it in his hand. His clothes were dirty, stained. Means कहीं कहीं पर दाग धब्बे लगे हुए थे, है ना? When she entered into Professor's inventory room. Amazing! He shouted. Listen! Gasped the professor. Now, after listening this, she saw what? This professor was telling what? Amazing. Getting his 5 pairs of spectacles so mixed up that he could see 4 Mrs. Fleeter Snoop, all different sizes. है ना. मीन्स वो अपने सर के ऊपर 5 spectacles यूज करता था. जस्ट लाइक इन द पिक्चर यू कैन सी हाउ दिस प्रोफेसर वोर द spectacles one on each other, है ना. एक के ऊपर एक रखता था so that whenever he will use the spectacles he will use the पर्टिकुलर वन. जब उसको पढ़ना है, लिखना है या कुछ स्पेशल काम करना है, ही विल यूज दैट स्पेक्टिकल्स. ही वोंट बी एबल टू फाइंड दैट स्पेक्टिकल्स हेयर एंड देयर. इंस्टेड ऑफ दैट he want that all on each other. So when he turned, he said, Fleeter Snoop, listen. And he saw what? He saw 5 different sizes of Fleeter Snoop when she was entering in the room. He always wore at least 5 pair of, since they each had special function. Some were just for reading and writing, but others had a specific job, such as the pair of look at you over the top of spectacles and the pair to wear when looking for the other if they were lost. The world will resound with discovery. I never knew I was as clever as this. Now, he told that फर्स्ट फ्लिटर स्नूप टोल्ड अबाउट कि वो कैसे दिखता है, वो हाउ ही वॉज वियरिंग दैट स्पेक्टिकल्स. एंड नाउ when this professor called Flitter Snoop, he said, listen, you know what? The world will be resound with discovery. I never knew I was clever as this. He told this to Mrs. Flitter Snoop that I'm very clever. I did a great job. I did a very great discovery. The professor then uncorked the ball, means he opened the bottle, and the simply awful smelling odor immediately became so bad that Mr. Flitter Snoop had to bury her nose in her apron. Like when something bad smell is coming, we are just hiding our nose in handkerchief or in something which we had worn. If we are using a shawl, we just cover our nose with that shawl, and immediately when something bad we are smelling. So when this professor opened the bottle, again the smell came really bad, and it was so bad that Mrs. Fleeter Snoop, she covered her nose under the apron. You know apron, what this apron means? Apron, the thing which is worn during like when we are working in the kitchen to protect our clothes, like this. She wore some this gray color around his neck. You can see the half of the front part of our dress is covered with that. If something bad will come, like if we are making some fries or something, when the oil will come on that apron, it will protect our clothes from getting dirty. So the apron means that. This liquid, said the professor with excitement, will bring to life any picture to which it applied. Look at this. Now, the professor told this to Mrs. Fleeter Snoop that this liquid will bring to life to any picture to which it is applied. जिस पे भी apply किया गया mixture, it will bring life to it. है ना? He drew the liquid up in the syringe and squirted it over a picture of some apples on the cover of a book. है ना? Nothing happened except that the picture got wet. Now, when he drew that liquid over the picture of that बुक, है ना, बुक के ऊपर में कुछ एप्पल्स का पिक्चर लगा हुआ था. ही पोर्ड दैट लिक्विड ओवर दैट, ही स्क्विटेड दैट, एंड व्हाट हैपेंड? नथिंग हैपेंड एक्सेप्ट दैट पिक्चर गॉट वेट. वो पिक्चर पूरी तरह से वेट हो गया, है ना, पानी वो जो लिक्विड था उसके अंदर पूरी तरह से कवर हो गया, बट नथिंग हैपेंड एज इट वाज टोल्ड बाय द प्रोफेसर दैट व्हेन समथिंग दिस लिक्विड विल बी पोर्ड ऑन इट, इट विल चेंज इनटू लाइफ. मीन्स वो रियल का बन जाएगा, बट नथिंग हैपेंड. Very good, sir. I'm sure, said Mrs. Fleeter Snoop, moving back into the kitchen, but the professor dragged her back. Now, what happened? Mrs. Fleeter Snoop told what? Very good, sir. Very good. हाँ, यही करो आप, because nothing happened, and you just doing every time some invention thing, but nothing happened. Now she was again getting back to the kitchen, and what happened while she was getting back to the kitchen again, Mr. Professor, he dragged her back. उसको वापस खींच कर दिखा रहा है. Wait! He shouted excitedly. It takes time. Look! He pointed with a quivering finger at the picture. Like थरथराते हुए उसका उंगली हिल रहा था, and he showed, देखो, picture में देखो, what it is happening. Oh, said his housekeeper, Mrs. Flitter Snoop. The apples began to swell up. The picture went all bobbly. Green smoke rose from the paper. The smell would have got worse, only it couldn't. Then suddenly, four lovely rosy apples rolled out of the picture. Now, what happened? All the apples on which this liquid was applied, it came out of the book and it rose just like an apple, or green rose smoke from the पेपर. ग्रीन स्मोक उस पेपर से निकलने लगा. And same thing, the bad smell was coming continuously out of the paper. Oh my! Exclaimed Mrs. Fleetner Snoop. Together, both of them munched the apple. It was like eating an apple, except for the rather papery flavor. है ना? Except that rather means that papery flavor, because the apples came out of that paper. It was the real apple taste, and it was red apple, right? It is rather a pity, said the professor, spraying a picture of a book of chocolate to life, that it cost more to make the liquid for doing this than it would cost to buy the things. Right? मतलब स्प्रे करना पिक्चर के ऊपर वो तो ज़्यादा मेहनत मीन्स नहीं है, बट ये जो बनाने में मुझे मेहनत लगा, इससे ज़्यादा तो आई कैन बाई दिस चॉकलेट अगेन फ्रॉम द मार्केट. राइट? You don't say, said Mrs. Flittersnoop, taking a handful of the chocolates. Now, please spray this liquid over this chocolate. I want the chocolate. But, said the professor, there are certain limitations to the power of this liquid. The things it brings to life go back as they were when the liquid dries off. Now, he said there are certain limitations to this power of the liquid, that when it get dries, the liquid when it get dries, it will get back into the picture. It will get back into the picture. जब तक ये वेट रहेगा तभी तक इसका जो आइटम्स है वो बाहर रहेगा. जब वो ड्राई कर जाएगा वो लिक्विड ओवर दैट पिक्चर, इट विल बिकम बैक इनटू द पिक्चर. The professor was now pulling out a book with a picture of a cat in it. Let me try this, he said. I don't know yet whether it will work with animals and people or what. Now, this professor was not really confirmed whether this liquid will work with the people or animals or not. He wanted to check. He said that I will bring that book out and I'll pour this liquid over that cat, and let's see whether this liquid work over the animal or people or not. He filled the syringe again while Mrs. Flittersnoop hid behind the door, because most of the professor's book were about wildest kind of animals. Yes, the book what professors have, in that many wild animals were there. So she thought कि अगर ये लिक्विड इसके ऊपर गिरा, then the wild animals will come out and they will be dangerous for us. Went the spray. They waited, the paper bulged, the picture smoked, and the smell just as before, the worst one. Then, meow, out just jumped the cat. Now, what happened? All that, when he poured that liquid over the picture of a cat, what happened? After a few minutes, the cat come out of that picture. But goodness gracious, the next minute the whole room was full of an elephant because that liquid got wet on and उसके बाद elephants थे तो उस room में पूरी जगह कौन आ गया? Elephants were full in that room. Amazing, gasped the professor, struggling out of the waste paper basket where the elephants had knocked him. Mrs. Flittersnoop slammed the door and rushed screaming all the way to her sister's Aggies in Lower Pegwell without even stopping to wipe the full floor of her nose. है ना, जो उसके नोज पे वो जो फ्लोर लगा हुआ था, आटा लगा हुआ था, उसको बिना साफ किए हुए शी वॉज गेटिंग बैक टू हर सिस्टर्स हाउस एगीज. है ना, वो लोअर पेगविल वॉज द टाउन वेयर द ग्रेट प्रोफेसर लीव्ड. ओके, तो उसका घर छोड़ के शी वॉज गेटिंग बैक टू दैट एगीज हाउस बिकॉज what happened? Mr. Professor got mad. He is just bringing life to the wild animals which can be dangerous to us. The cat jumped out of the window and followed her, still mewing because the picture of it had showed it mewing, and it didn't seem to be able to stop. But most definitely awkward of all, the elephant squeezed its big self through the French window and followed her too. Now, what happened? Everyone is following each other. Like Mrs. Flittersnope is running to her sister's house, and before her, cat was chasing her and mewing. वो mewing sound कर रही थी क्योंकि पिक्चर में वो mewing sound कर रही थी, इसलिए वो चुप नहीं हो रही थी और mewing करते हुए वो Flittersnope के पीछे पीछे भाग रही थी, है ना. एंड ये जो एलिफेंट है वो उसके पीछे पीछे भाग रहा है. So this happened when they came out of that Mr. Professor's house where he was inventing. He invented the mixture which bring life to the picture when it is poured on it, when the liquid was poured on it. So this is all about today. Please read the chapter, find out the word meaning which are really new to you, where you don't know the word meanings. Please find that and write it down in your notebook, because on next Friday you have to submit the PDF of your new pathways, the NCRT and the grammar. So please be ready for that. And now means after this week you are going to have your examination, so please read and understand this well. And poem lines and summaries are really important for this. Okay, so guys, have a nice day to all and bye everyone.